Good afternoon to you. 3:06 now. News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news. Coming up this hour, Emily Jashinksy joins us, D.C. correspondent for UnHerd. We'll talk about Joe Biden needing a full week at debate camp. He's at Camp David, and they're training him up right now. It's like a Rocky montage. He's running, carrying logs, doing everything he can to prepare for his big bout with President Trump next week. Eric Burleson is going to be here at 4:30, congressman from Missouri. We'll talk to him about an effort to free those Trump associates that Nancy Pelosi got locked up for her ridiculous January 6th committee. And then Angela Morabito is here at 5 o'clock. We talk education with her as Biden administration officials brag about having you pay off their student loans. They're double dipping. They're taking your money in salaries, and then they're taking your money to pay off their loans. And then they're bragging about it. You can join us, 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. What should we expect after Joe Biden gets done at debate camp next week? CBS has some ideas.
But I'm also told that we should expect some surprises as well, because this is such a critical performance for President Biden, not only on the content, but on his physical performance as well.
Oh, so we're going to get some surprises from Biden next week. What does that even mean? Not only on the content, but his physical performance, says the CBS reporter. We'll get some surprises next. Is he going to do a backflip on stage? What kind of surprise could he possibly have for us? A physical performance. Will he be doing close-up street magic? What are we to expect from Joe Biden next week? Some push-ups, feats of strength, you know? Will he tie a cherry stem with his tongue? What kind of performance could he possibly have in mind? And how does a reporter with a straight face say, get ready for some surprises? There's going to be some physical surprises next week. Joe Biden is going to spin basketballs on both of his index fingers like the Harlem Globetrotters at the debate, and it'll go on for minutes. It'll be unbelievable. Think I've got problems? Check this out. What is she talking about? She's not ashamed at all that she's carrying this ridiculous water for the White House. Biden expected to do some physical feats next week. I think at this point it's safe to say that among the physical feats he might do is just surviving. Surviving the debate will be a physical feat for Joe Biden next week. So we'll see. By the way, you can join us today, 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. Biden heading off to Camp David today. He's going to spend the next week there doing debate prep. I would assume that means massive amounts of sleep and drugs. I think that's mostly what they're going to be focused on. Although, we're seeing reports that he's going to be doing some mock debates or pretending to debate with somebody who's playing Donald Trump. Okay, good luck. Good luck finding someone who can do that for you in any way that would actually prepare you. Here's Karine Jean-Pierre this week talking about Joe Biden going away and how he's still going to be president while he's gone. He's a very busy man, you see.
And just on the stretch of days that the president will be spending at Camp David, how much of that time will be devoted to debate prep, and just what have you observed the president do in recent days in terms of preparing for the debate? Like, have you seen him, going back to watch previous debates between the president and the former president or anything like that?
Has he been watching game tape, anything like that?
So as it relates to debate prep, that is squarely in the camp.
Have you ever heard a real spokesman or spokeswoman for anybody get caught mid-sentence and go, like as a way to clear up the language?
The president and the former president or anything like that?
So as it relates to debate prep, that is squarely in the camp of the campaign. So I have to keep that there, and I'm not going to speak in details about that. And so what I will say is...
It'd be easier just to say you have no idea what you're talking about.
Is that, while the president is at Camp David and Rehoboth, he certainly will be able to be to stay up to date on what's going on, to get updates from his senior advisors.
How many high school seniors could do this job better than her? Almost every one of them, I think. The cool thing is it takes no prep. She can just walk up to the microphone and they say something like, "Hey, what kind of debate prep is he doing?" Well, you see, the president is the president no matter where he is, and he does president stuff whenever he's there. So it'll be fine. There's going to be lots of presidenting going on during that time period. Next question. It's like, what? What are you even talking about? I just asked you, is he going to be doing debate prep?
His team, as we say many times, the president could be president anywhere. We have the infrastructure to do just that. I don't have anything specific on how his time is being divided, but I can tell you this: the president's going to continue to stay squarely focused on his duty as president of the United States.
Lots of presidenting. CNN's Van Jones had this to say about Biden. Biden's got a full-time job, you see. Biden's working a lot harder than you are. So the fact that he's even doing any debate prep, you should be thankful.
Well, I mean, I just want to say that I do think it's to Biden's advantage, because they keep acting like he's going to walk out there and fall asleep or fall over. And so just the fact that he's not going to do that.
What if he does the Willy Wonka thing, right? Like Gene Wilder, he comes out, he's got this cane, and he slowly walks onto the stage, and then he sticks the cane in the ground, he somersaults forward, he jumps up and throws his arms in the air. Everyone's like, that was amazing, that was unbelievable, nobody even expected it. He'll hobble out like Willy Wonka. Van Jones starting with a lot of low expectations for Biden's physical demeanor. Yeah, because we've seen the tape.
He is sharp on policy. The big challenge that any sitting president has, and remember, Obama had that problem in 2012. When you're president, you have a pretty big job every day. You have a lot to do. You have a lot to manage.
You got to choose how many scoops of ice cream you're having, what kind of flavor.
And most of the people you're talking to are people who are reporting to you. It's unusual when you're president for somebody to come and just punch you in the head. And so remember the first Romney-Obama debate in Colorado.
Right.
Obama, he didn't have the moves. He didn't have that Muhammad Ali shuffle. He wasn't really Obama. He was this guy who had been in the Oval Office for 4 years. And
does Obama have a Muhammad Ali shuffle? Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. Does he do that?
Romney cleaned his clock.
So.
Now, Obama came back the next time and set the record straight. But Biden's got two things working against him. One is the momentum is not there with him, but also he's got a full-time job. All Trump's got to do is sit up in court, not fall asleep, and then go out there and say mean stuff about Biden. When you have a full-time job as demanding as the presidency and then have to turn on a dime and spend an hour and a half arguing with somebody who has no responsibilities.
Let's be honest about the how dominated each of these men's days are by the amount of work that they have to put in. Who do you think's working harder, Donald Trump or Joe Biden? I'm being dead serious. Who do you think is actually working harder on a daily basis? Who is going the distance? Who's getting up early, going to bed late? Who's traveling the country? Who's meeting with voters? Who's taking seriously their concerns? Who's discussing policy? Who's presenting a future vision for America that reflects the past vision that was actually pretty good? That was Donald Trump's era. Come on. Who's tied up in courts nonstop? Who's constantly talking to attorneys to figure out how to keep his head above water to survive the political attacks? That's Donald Trump. Joe Biden barely registers an event a day as president of the United States. They don't do anything before 10 a.m. They don't do anything after 4 p.m. Everything about his life is carefully managed, including walking across the lawn. They surround him with people to prevent you from seeing what that looks like. He's on vacation 40% of his presidency. He's spending the next week at Camp David to prepare him for a 90-minute on-television, 2-commercial debate. Will you spare us, please? Biden, he works so much harder than Trump. Let me add one other thing. Trump's got a multi-billion-dollar business I didn't even mention, in addition to everything relevant to politics. So yes, Trump is working a lot harder than Biden is. It's the most ridiculous possible thing for Van Jones to say.
You have a full-time job as demanding as the presidency and then have to turn on a dime and spend an hour and a half arguing with somebody who has...
And all the stuff that the presidency handles, he's running into the ground. The border, foreign policy, relations with Russia, North Korea, Iran, Israel, Hamas, go down the list. Everything is getting substantially worse. So all that hard work is leading to what?
No responsibilities. That is a tough mental turn for anybody, even a young guy like Obama. So we're going to see. But if Biden pulls that off, I think it will be impressive for that narrow slice of people who haven't already made up their mind.
And Van, how big of a moment is this for the president? I mean, I talked to folks in the Biden world, Democratic Party, and they say this is a hugely important moment for the president.
This is the entire election as far as I'm concerned. The entire world
No, but let me just point out, both of these men are on CNN. It's a CNN debate. They're hyping their CNN debate, so you watch CNN to see it all. And of course we will. We'll be watching. But this is the entire election. This is the biggest thing in the world, say the CNN guys.
Be watching. If you are a carbon-based life form, you're going to be watching. If you've got a functioning brainstem, you're going to be watching. Because if Biden goes out there and messes up,
if you don't have a functioning brainstem, you may be in the debate.
It's game over. If he walks out there and a week later he's lower in the polls, it's panic in the party. But if he goes in there and he can handle himself against Donald Trump, a runaway train, a locomotive, a raging bull, then this guy deserves another shot to be president, because that is tough. You couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. If you can stand...
Acosta can't like that. He can't like that. Van Jones just said, you can't stand up to Trump. You wouldn't be able to handle Trump. Acosta thinks that he is the single best person to have ever taken on Donald Trump. Screeching at him at press briefings, grabbing microphones and arm wrestling with young female aides at the White House. Acosta's whole life has been defined by that. So Van Jones is like, you couldn't do it. And Acosta's like, yes, I can. He didn't say anything there, but pretty funny. Pretty funny. But talk about the expectations game. So Van Jones's position is if Biden can endure Trump, victory. Just that if he can stand on the same stage and leave it, victory. Boy, that's like the most ridiculous thing. How about, accounting for the abysmal state of our country, talking about the fact that people are poorer now than when Joe Biden took office, that we have a border that's wide open through which millions of foreign nationals have poured, that the war situation is far worse, the energy situation is far worse. The list is unfortunately endless, that he's leading attacks on women. He's redefining Title IX in order to say that men are women. Yeah. They can't even accomplish some of the big splashy things that they claim they're going to do. Speaking of splashy, the pier going into Gaza, floating away, a $250 million boondoggle, just completely falling apart, didn't work. They're spending billions upon billions of dollars trying to connect rural America to broadband internet. They haven't connected a single home. The Washington Times with an excellent report on that this week. 3 years later, what was it, $42.5 billion that they spent? Zero homes connected. How many billions have we spent on those EV charging stations? Have you checked in with Mayor Pete lately? What did he say about that? Oh, we've built 7 or 8. They're not sure. There may be 8. They're still looking. 7 or 8. They think they're going to build EV charging stations for every city in the country by 2030. They're running out of time, and they're definitely running out of money. The debt is at stratospheric levels. Credit card debt specifically for Americans is skyrocketing. So many of the jobs that they claim to have created, guess what they didn't actually do? They didn't create them. They keep revising all of the jobs numbers downward. I believe last year, a quarter of the jobs that the Biden administration claimed they, quote, created don't actually exist. And among the jobs that did actually get created were part-time jobs. And guess who took them? Foreign nationals. American citizens have been losing jobs under the Biden administration. So a real debate would include questions about these issues, and a real assessment of these candidates would be based on what they have to say on those subjects, what they can do for the American people, what they have done for the American people, what they have failed the American people on. That's what real expectations should be. Not that if Joe Biden can stand on stage at the same time as Donald Trump for 90 minutes, then he deserves to be president again. How stupid. But that's what we're getting from CNN, where the debate will be next week. To the phones we go. Steve in Ashburn, line 3. Steve, good afternoon, sir. You're on the Vince Coglianese Show.
Good afternoon, Vince. I'll keep this simple because Joe Biden may be listening. His daily schedule is so thin. How can he be busy effecting and performing the work of the country? He just can't be. He's not doing it. I mean, somebody else is.
If he was actually doing literally anything else, the White House would tell us about it. They'd want us to be impressed by all of the stuff that he's doing, but they can't even do that. In fact, most days there's like one thing on the schedule. The president attends an event, and it's like 15 minutes. He's usually late to it, and then he's gone, and that's it. That's the whole schedule.
Exactly. And as we listen to cringe, let me be clear. He's not doing anything.
For sure. The guy's a mascot.
Period. Period.
period. Thank you, Steve. You're doing a much better job than Corinne, quite honestly. Let's see here. Carlos calling in from Arlington now, line 4. Carlos, you're on the Vince Coglianese Show. Hello, sir.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing great. Carlos, what's on your mind?
Well, I was just thinking, nobody ever talks about it, but they talked about it during the Trump era. How many press conferences has Biden had since he's been in office?
Not that many. The last time he took questions was, I think, at the when he was with Zelensky. They were overseas together, and that was
Right,
that's what we
really considered a press conference.
Nope, it's not a press. It's what they call a 2+2, meaning only 2 American reporters get to ask a question, and they are hand selected by the White House.
Correct. So since his first year, he has not had a press conference. And remember, under Trump, they were keeping tabs of how many press conferences he was having throughout his whole entire tenure.
Yeah. And the truth is, in Trump's case, in Trump's case, it was a never-ending press conference. Every time he walked out to Marine One, he conducted yet another gaggle, a press conference with all of these reporters asking him questions over the roar of the helicopter. He was constantly available to the press.
Exactly, and Biden never is, and you know why? Because he is not mentally fit, and I think the way that, I can't remember her name, but she's on the Larry show in the morning, says that's mashed potato brains right there.
That may be Julie Gunlock, perhaps, or Patrice Onwuka, one of the great women on O'Connor and Company.
Yes,
Thank you for the call on that, Carlos. Now, you're right about that. Let me see. I see a report here from the Daily Press, whatever that is, but they tabulated it in March. They said Biden holds the record for the lowest number of press conferences at all. Former President Trump did 88 press conferences. Biden has apparently just done 33, I guess. That seems like a lot. I don't think he's done 33. We may be inflating what you consider a press conference. A lot of those 2+2s, perhaps. What does Biden think that adds up to, by the way? Probably 5. Coming up, Emily Jashinksy talks to us about debate prep. Also, a mystery in what the Biden team has picked for their coin toss. They won the coin toss. We'll tell you about that. Hey, good afternoon. It's 3:36 here, News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we are making sense of the news. Coming up, Eric Burleson will be with us, the congressman. We'll talk to, he's a House Oversight Committee member, Freedom Caucus member. We're going to talk to him about the effort to rescind all of those wild subpoenas sent out by Nancy Pelosi's January 6th committee to a variety of Trump aides who are now looking at or already serving jail time because they didn't take Pelosi seriously enough. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Congressman Burleson's here. Angela Morabito joins us at 5 o'clock. We'll talk to her about government officials who are not only taking your money in the form of salaries, but taking it in the form of having you pay off their student loans as well, the deadbeats. And you can join us at 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. We're now a week away from the first presidential debate of 2024, a rather early debate in the cycle as President Trump and President Biden will square off on CNN. President Biden leaving today to Camp David. He's going to spend the next week there doing all sorts of training exercises to get ready for this thing. For more on what to expect, Emily Jashinksy joins us now. She's a D.C. correspondent for UnHerd and the Coast of Counterpoints, found wherever podcasts are sold. Emily, good to talk to you today.
Hey, Vince, how's it going?
It's going great. And Joe Biden is off to Camp David today. He's going to be there for the next week. Does it really take a week to prepare for a 90-minute debate with 2 commercial breaks?
I have never heard of this. I mean, seriously, the sitting president of the United States actually literally decamping to like a debate prep seminar for an entire week. I mean, I know that they start preparing a lot and they prepare for a good number of weeks leading up to the debate, but for him to actually not be in the White House for the next week, I find extremely weird. I don't know about you. That just strikes me as very strange.
It's pathetic is what it is, because it obviously suggests that he needs immense help to prepare for such a small event. 90 minutes on TV, you can handle that. You should obviously, do some prep work for it, but an entire week of it, it's a little over the top. Do you have any expectations for what's going to take place at this debate? What are they advising Biden to do? What are they hoping he actually pulls off?
So I basically, as a journalist, never am interested in going to these presidential debates, because what you see on TV is basically what you see in person. But this one, I think the big story is actually going to be the debate itself, because it's breaking this historical pattern of using the Commission on Presidential Debates and doing it in the fall. And they have, because they're sort of unchained by the Presidential Debate Commission traditions and rules, they have these new rules that the candidates have agreed to, at least for now, where Trump is going to be muted, or I guess both their mics are going to be muted when they're not talking. So that's supposed to minimize crosstalk. They are, again, doing this in June as opposed to September, October. It's really wild. And whether they actually are able to pull this off, I think is genuinely a big question, because, again, they're not bound to any of the Presidential Debate Commission commitments. And there are all kinds of different things that are going to be new. So if CNN can pull this off without any candidate backing down and saying, you're trying to pull a fast one, the muting is going to be a really big deal. Who knows if that actually works? It seems to me pretty odd. When are they going to decide? When are they going to decide when crosstalk is appropriate and when it's not? I mean, you have any good debate is going to have some crosstalk. So I don't know how they think they're going to pull that one off.
Yeah, well, let's just talk about the logistics of that for a moment, because as I understand it, they're going to be in a television studio, right? They're in Atlanta at a CNN studio.
Right.
They will be standing at lecterns, and the candidate whose time is not going at the moment will have their mic muted. But here's the thing about a television studio. Those men will be able to hear each other. They're at room volume standing next to each other. So if Biden is speaking, for instance, and Trump is interjecting, Biden is going to hear him at full volume, standing next to him doing that very thing. The TV audience will not. We'll have a very different experience. We may hear Trump muffled through Biden's microphone, but it's going to be weird, because Biden is going to feel compelled to respond with Trump speaking and will not have the same kind of audio experience that the rest of us are having. Am I right?
No, I'm actually so fascinated by that. That's really a great point, because they're not going to know what the audience is hearing, and what the audience is hearing is what the big deal is going to be. And so, again, I think whenever you get away from the tradition, I'm perfectly happy for them to do that. I think that's fine. By the way, this is going to be moderated by Jake Tapper and Dana Bash, who are some of the most anti-Trump voices in media. So that Trump agreed to this debate with the most anti-Trump network in news, and the most, well, I guess it's up there with MSNBC, but the most anti-Trump anchors, who are really more like pundits at that network, is interesting in and of itself.
Well, he called their bluff, didn't he?
Absolutely. And there were a lot of conservatives, this, Vince, who said, don't agree to do a debate with CNN. Don't give them what they want, which is ads and eyeballs and all of that. Now, if anyone can do it to their advantage, I'm sure it's Donald Trump. But still, I mean, that you have those two moderating it, I don't know how this is. I think, honestly, Vince, my prediction is that it's going to be a logistical mess. And the logistical mess is also going to be a substantive mess, because it's going to bleed into the actual content of the debate. It might even start to percolate in the 24 hours before the debate as candidates go back and forth about what's allowed and what's not.
Sure. And I want to talk more about the logistics of that in a moment, but focusing for a moment on Dana Bash and Jake Tapper, as we've watched the campaign barrel along, one of the things that's become more and more obvious to more and more Americans is that there truly is a concerted effort to do something unfair to hurt Donald Trump's candidacy. The courtroom campaign that's been going on, the courtroom interference that's been going on, has only brought more people to Trump's side who've looked at this and gone, wait a second, this is crazy. He's being prosecuted for all of these things in the election year? That's wild. And so there is a chance, I think, next week that people are going to view this debate as nothing more than a dog pile. They're going to look and they're going to say, okay, Biden, Dana Bash, Jake Tapper, all out to attack that guy. Why are they doing that? And it may actually help Trump in the end.
Oh, I mean, yeah, absolutely. And that's another interesting point, because the debates between Biden and Trump back in 2020 were also kind of odd. They were new types of debates because it was in the early days, well, the early days is a relative term, but of COVID, because we had to go through another, 2 years of it if you're in a blue city like Washington, D.C. But it was, a different debating experience, similar maybe because they were in a TV studio, there wasn't a live audience, and it was, I think Biden performed better, I'll say, than I expected. And I guess when you're in such a tight time frame, a couple of hours, it's easier to control, your candidate and, any potential memory issues, health issues. If you have a 2-hour window, I suppose it's easier to work with if you have somebody as senile as Joe Biden needing to perform. And I think that's where Trump, he has to be careful, because sometimes those funny Trump moments look really bad juxtaposed with, it almost looks like punching down if Joe Biden is so feeble. But, he managed to perform in 2020. I have my doubts that he's going to be able to do it again in 2024,
yes.
Given, the decline that we've seen in the last few years.
So I have an expectation that what they're telling Biden this week is they're trying to feed him a number of attack lines to try and throw Donald Trump off. I think that is the game plan. I believe because Biden is not running on some sort of positive record. He's not up there to talk about how great his presidency has been. Although he'll lie about that to some extent. He'll talk about that. A lot of this is going to be accusing Trump of being an insurrectionist, a convicted felon, of saying that he thinks immigrants are animals, or any number of the lies that we've heard coming out of the White House. This is the line of attack I think they're going to want Joe Biden to be taking, because they want to try and get a rise out of Donald Trump and to make it seem like he's just out of control. And I really think that that's the strategy going in the next week. Do you think that's right?
Yeah, I totally think that's right. And I think we've seen it intentionally used as bait for the last 4 years now, since it was in 2020. But even since then, just in the Biden administration, we saw him give that speech in Philadelphia. We know that they're running on democracy, democracy, democracy. It is their message. It's a great way to bait Trump into perhaps looking like he's punching down at Joe Biden. But it's for that group of suburban voters. And that's what they feel is the key to the election. They don't mind losing some of those Obama-Trump voters again.
Yep.
They think if they can, run up turnout in the cities, which is going to be really tough for them, but also keep those suburban voters, then, hey, we'll just keep hammering home the democracy theme all day.
Although I have to say, I've seen President Trump respond to this on the campaign trail, that particular line of attack, and he has a real opportunity next week to handle it as well by saying, you want to talk about democracy? You're the guy trying to throw your political opponent in jail. Your party has been trying to remove not just my name, but Robert F. Kennedy's name from the ballot all across the country. So you, Joe, are the threat to democracy. We've heard President Trump say it on the campaign trail. He may very well say it next week. I don't know how Biden even handles that.
Yeah, I would, if Trump is smart, I think that strategically, or if the people around him are smart when they're prepping him. And actually, it's worth mentioning, Vince, that Trump is apparently not doing the mock debate nonsense that a lot of candidates do behind closed doors, where they have one of their aides play the other candidate. Maybe that makes sense if you're in a big debate, but if it's just one-on-one and it's two such known quantities, Trump is apparently just getting policy background refreshers.
Yeah.
And honestly, that means you go in and you're a little bit more freewheeling. You're not obsessing over talking points. I think it's smart. I mean, Democrat or Republican, I think that's a better way to approach a debate.
Yes.
But hopefully, if he wants to, if he wants to defeat Biden in this, the best way for him to do it, I think, is exactly what you just outlined, is to turn the tables. And he's been better at that than any Republican, at least in my memory.
100%. So here's another piece of this debate news we just get today. Some of the items of the debate hadn't yet been chosen. They were being picked today in the form of a coin toss. Biden's team, Biden himself, they won the coin toss today. And so CNN said, you have one of two options. Either you can pick your podium position, or you can pick the order of the closing statements. Now, for anybody in America, anybody on the whole planet, if you were given that option, you would choose the order of the closing statements as your priority. You'd want to go last. You want to be the final impression in that debate. Anybody. Biden's team picked podium position today. They won the coin toss, And they said that Joe Biden is going to be standing on the right side of the stage now as viewers look at the TV screen. That was their preference. And that means President Trump got to pick who goes last on closing statements, and it's going to be President Trump. President Trump is going to be the final guy on closing statements now in this debate. What the hell were they thinking, Emily Jashinksy? Why does Biden need to pick a podium so urgently?
Yeah, I'm trying hard not to be conspiratorial here, but it just makes you wonder if there's an angle. Remember when those facelift pictures of Biden came out?
Yes.
So bad, and you can still get it at certain angles. I mean, I don't know what it is, but for the life of me, I cannot understand.
Yeah.
I cannot understand why that would be so important.
Well, maybe the zipper for his body double suit is on the other side of his face. Maybe they wanted to block that out or something.
It's hard to know because it's totally unthinkable that anyone would prioritize their position on the stage. Like, maybe there's a good reason. I just can't think of it what it is right now. Maybe it's the direction that he'd be facing in the audience. Maybe he wants to look at Jill. I don't know.
Maybe the exit door is closer to that one so that they can get him out of there quickly. Maybe the bathroom is nearby. I can't even begin to understand this. In fact, the New York Times, as much as they carry Biden's water, they're kind of bewildered too. They wrote today in their coverage, Mr. Biden's campaign did not immediately provide a comment about why he wanted to choose podium placement over speaking order or why he even prefers that placement. This is crazy. Wasn't it like Ariana Grande a couple years back who she only wanted to appear with one side of her face in any media? She's like, this is where the dimple is. This is my better side. Maybe Joe Biden thinks he's got a better side. Maybe he's just vain, Emily Jashinksy.
That's what I'm wondering right now, but because it's the only explanation I can think of. And I'm actually even surprised that that's an option, because nobody would think to choose it. Like, nobody would think to prioritize your location on the stage. It's so weird.
It is so stupid. But there must be some explanation for it. At any rate, Emily Jashinksy, thank you as always. Always love our conversations. She's the DC correspondent at UnHerd, and she's got the great podcast Counterpoints. Thank you, Emily. Yeah, debate's going to be something else. Why did Joe Biden's team prioritize his podium position, his lectern position, over who goes last in closing statements? Barry's in Frederick, line 2. Barry, good afternoon, sir. You're on the Vince Coglianese Show.
Vince, I'm convinced this is 100% because Joe Biden's going to have an earpiece in one of his ears. He probably has one ear that's stronger than the other, and they want to make sure that ear is not facing the camera. It's as simple as that. Joe Biden doesn't have a good side. His head looks like a giant testicle. Everybody knows that.
Oh, my goodness. Barry, they tried to fix that ahead of the last election. They did a lot of plastic surgery, although the Washington Examiner had a great report on that subject. They said that it wasn't very good plastic surgery. Remember this? We've talked about this. They pulled his face up, and now he has hair that grows in a weird spot on the side of his ear that he needs to apparently shave now with some frequency. Imagine that. You have to figure out a way to shave around some of the ear parts now because of the awful plastic surgery. Thank you, Barry. So, yeah, maybe the earpiece thing. I did think that maybe he's hard of hearing on one side. Maybe that's one of the issues. He's just got an ear that actually works. The other one doesn't. Maybe that's part of this. Huh? I don't know. I don't know. Andrew's in Frederick, line 6. Andrew, you're on the Vince Coglianese Show. Hello, sir.
Hey, Vince, thanks for taking my call. Love your show, man.
Thank you.
I agree with Barry. I think that it's probably going to be trying to hide an earpiece on one side. I also think that maybe he's got a, bad leg or a shaky hand, and they're trying to hide that behind him. Additionally to that, I like that, Trump is on the left of the screen because it means that in reality, Biden is to the left of Trump. Which we all know for sure.
That is true.
As well as the fact that, in my experience and watching all the Trump debates so far, he's been on the left side of the screen from my perspective. So I think that's comfortable and it's a strong position for him.
That's true, actually. Now that you mention it, I remember a lot of these debates where he was right there. I hardly think it matters that much where you are on that stage. It's just the two of them debating. But I will say, I agree with everyone who's assessing there is deception going on. You only prioritize your podium placement if you're trying to conceal something. Meanwhile, the Trump team happily saying, yeah, we'll take the final word in closing statements. All right, hold on. Coming up, Congressman Eric Burleson will be with us in the next hour, and more of your calls. Stay with us.